What's up, guys? Mr. Nose Hoops here, back today with another video. And today, I am discussing something that is going to be extremely fun for me. So the first, string of videos I'm going to be doing here for my postseason content is going to be the 10 best players at each position in the NBA. And I think that's just what's going to be so fun to do, because I get to kind of really analyze a lot more players, take a look at them, and really figure out what I want and what I like at each of these positions or these individual players, and kind of helps me build my overall top 10 list and just my list of top players in the league in general. Now, before getting into any of that and talking about my criteria, I just want to remind you guys, I do have a Discord with my buddy Dream Hoops. We're in there all the time discussing hoops, analyzing film, watching games, stuff like that. And also, very important, do not forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. We're trying to hit 1K before October. So we're at 500, right? We're already pretty close. We got like 3-4 months left. So I'm really hoping we can get there and crush that goal. But now I guess we can discuss my criteria. So part of it is going to be based just off of this season. Obviously, I have to take off of what you've done for me recently, but I also have to remember what you've done for me as a body of work. So, for example, someone like Luka not making the playoffs is not going to have him not top 2 or top 3 as a point guard. That's just not going to happen. But I also think you have to take, for example, players like James Harden who have struggled more or just aren't as good as they used to be. I'm not going to value you as a top 4 to 5 player at your position just because of what you used to be. So I think it's a mix of stats, eye tests, and just the film I've seen, and along with just what you've been giving me recently and how much I value that. And again, really quick, honorable mention, Darius Garland. He's extremely interchangeable with the guy who I have at 10, but just didn't quite make the list for me, but he was very close. So without further ado, this is Mr. No Soups, and let's get into the top 10 point guards in today's NBA. Coming in at number 10 for me is going to be the more breakout player of this season, and that is none other than Tyrese Haliburton. What Tyrese Haliburton has done for this Pacers team to me has just been nothing short of impressive. And he, to me, is just so close to someone like Darius Garland. Their efficiencies are damn near the same. I prefer just Haliburton's play style more in general. I just think he's a better finisher, and I think that their playmaking is just about the same. I would say Tyrese is probably a slightly better passer, but again, that's just so close. But to me, I would take what Tyrese is giving me as a playmaker and offensive player in general, just in terms of all 3 levels, in comparison to someone like Garland. And I think in general, it's kind of hard to then take guys who actually have playoff experience under Tyrese, because it's like he doesn't have any, and obviously a part of that is just the caliber of teams he was on before. But I think in general, the experience that we saw from Garland isn't necessarily the best one to kind of point out and be like, see, there's playoff experience. So for right now, I do have Tyrese Haliburton as my 10th best point guard in basketball. And I think him and Garland are so interchangeable that if you had it the other way around, I wouldn't be mad. And now coming in at number 9 is James Harden. James Harden was extremely tough for me to rank. Because, again, it's like what we talked about earlier. James Harden, if you look at everything, his whole resume, could rank right higher. But recently, I think we've just seen, due to injuries and just his poor maintaining of his body, James Harden is just not the same caliber of player that he used to be. He's a bit slower on the first step, which I think is a big part of his game. We saw in that Celtics series as it progressed, his almost unwillingness to attack the rim and just getting so passive at times, to the harm of the 76ers, and at times straying away from these things like the pick and roll with Embiid. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, you are an all-time great playmaker. Why are you avoiding what is the most obvious plays for you to run? So for stuff like that, for me, I just think at this point, James Harden can't really get that much higher. And I think just watching his inconsistent plays kind of proved that point to me. So James Harden is number 9. And now coming in at number 8 is Jamal Murray. I think these playoffs have really shown to me that even though his regular seasons can be sort of meh, nothing crazy, his postseason rises are just some of the best things I've ever seen from a basketball player. We talk about playoff Jimmy. Why is there no playoff Jamal? This and the bubble, basically the 2 full seasons he's had, postseasons he's had, the man has been damn near at times the first option on this team with Nikola Jokic. I think that Jamal, if he does this again, has another incredible rise in the postseason. We just need to have a conversation. I think, and I kind of want to put this in writing now, he's on the way to being an all-star next year. I think somehow, some way, he will make it as a reserve. Put money on it. But yeah, right now I have Jamal Murray at 8 just because I do think the regular season play has to come into account for right now, unless he does this again for a third time, at which point that is just the norm for someone like Jamal, and I have to value that even more so. So for right now, I have Jamal Murray at 8, but I also think he is similar to someone like Tyrese, where I think he really can continue to move up. And now, coming in here at number 7, I have Jalen Brunson. Brunson has really impressed me. I did not really think his addition to the Knicks would be as impactful as it is, but I think his offensive game has just been nothing short of incredible. I think, as we've seen, him as a scorer at times can be a little rough, for sure. We noticed that in these playoffs. However, I also noticed that he helped dudes like Julius Randle not have to be the main ball handler all the time. He helped get RJ Barrett more involved in the offense. He got the Knicks going in ways that they were never going before. And I think because of that, I have to take what Jalen Brunson is giving me, especially what he did in the postseason on top of all that, and really say that this guy has done more than any of us was expecting. We all thought that one year with Dallas was a bit of a fluke or just like, whatever. But here he is, and I think he's someone that's here to stay. I think, realistically, he'll probably float around this range unless he takes another step up in terms of his play. But I think for right now, Jalen Brunson is the 7th best point guard in basketball, and I think what he has done, just in terms of his increase in production, is nothing short of incredible. And we can really see somebody who, if he got another number 1, could be, I think, a legitimate number 2, similar to someone like Jamal Murray who would step up. And then coming up next at number 6, I have De'Aaron Fox. Now, I've always had De'Aaron Fox in my personal top 10s, but he was always closer to someone like Jamal, or where I put James Harden, so 8 or 9. But for me this season, it showed once you gave De'Aaron Fox some competent help, and you really let him be your secondary ball handler, or obviously primary at times, but, having a Sabonis to help you as a playmaker, I don't know what this guy really can't do. I think his 3 ball is obviously not the best thing in the world, but his mid-range is nothing short of deadly. He's the best point guard finisher in the game. At this point, I just don't know what De'Aaron isn't giving you as an offensive player. And I think these playoffs kind of showed me something else. De'Aaron's defense isn't anything terrible. I used to think that De'Aaron's defense was just dog. But this, I think at times, he really locks in and can give you some meaningful plays on the defensive end. And that's a big deal to me. So I think looking at how much De'Aaron Fox has improved, getting up to number 6 is nothing short of incredible. And honestly, if the Kings make another postseason run, I think that this team, and I think De'Aaron especially, might move up my list into the top 5. De'Aaron Fox, guys, just really keep an eye out. I hope that no one just gets off the Kings after 1 year. And now at number 5, I have Trey Young. Now, I've talked about Trey Young on the channel before. I've reached a point with Trey Young that I don't think as incredible of a playmaker as he is. I think a lot of that comes from how good of a shooter he is, or just how good of a scorer he is. The issue is that when I need his scoring the most, aka the playoffs, he does not show up. So that at that point, if his scoring isn't as good to me, I think his playmaking is greatly diminished. And with that playmaking greatly diminished, it's kind of hard for me to see why people would say he's just clearly better than someone like Ja Morant. I don't get it. Why is Trey Young clearly so much better, but when you need him the most to do certain things in an entire series, he's not there? Again, Trey Young is an incredible point guard, and I think he's better than most of these dudes below him on the list. But I also think if we continue to see this level of drop in the playoffs, and we continue to see that this playmaking and scoring just isn't going to translate, at some point, I'm sorry, I have to hold you to who you really are and not what you should be. So for right now, I have Trey Young at 5, and I think right now that's not a crazy thing. I don't actually want to know what you guys think about that placement. But then coming in for me at number 4 is Ja Morant. Now, I think Ja and Trae are on the same level. So again, this is much more of a, if you have Ja at 5 and you have Trae at 4, I'm not mad. I think that's a reasonable take. I think that, to me, though, Ja is a better scorer in the playoffs. I think they both have a shot selection issue. I just think Ja is much, at least to me, when I've seen, is Ja still just takes better shots in general. And then again, with Trae scoring getting so diminished, I just think Ja's playmaking slightly translates better to a postseason because, again, his scoring translates better. I just think when you need Ja in the postseason, it translates better. And again, the regular season, I think they're still close anyways. So for me, I have Ja at number 4 just because I think he translates more than the guy below him in Trae. But do not forget this, what I'm about to say. De'Aaron Fox might earn their way into a convo if he has a great postseason run next year. And if the other two start to continue to struggle. So I just want that to be put out there. If De'Aaron Fox has a good to great run next year, and Ja and Trae both have a dip or a struggle, we're going to have to talk about it. And now at number 3 is Damian Lillard. These top 3, you guys are all going to know. Damian Lillard, to me, is where you start to see the gaps in the point guard list. So you have my top 2, then there's a little bit of a gap, then there's Dame. Then there's a significant gap, then you would have Ja and Trae right next to each other. Then there's a gap to guys like De'Aaron, Brunson, Jamal, and my number 9 and 10, Tyrese, and I'm so sorry, guys, I'm blanking. But to me, what Dame does just as an overall scorer and playmaker, I just don't think there's anybody below him that even deserves to be in the conversation with him. Dame is just a whole other level of scorer, a whole other level of a playmaker. I just think what Dame is giving you, he's just on a terrible team. And please, Portland, give this man up. It's okay. Draft someone with your number 3 pick. Do not trade this pick. You are not going to get anyone back valuable to help this man win the championship. So stop wasting his time, stop wasting the fans' time, and let's all just move on to much better pastures. But Damian Lillard, to me, is clearly the 3rd best point guard in basketball, and there is no one close to him in terms of reaching that number 3 spot. Unless the 2 below just make the biggest jump I've ever seen in my life. And then, coming in at number 2, I think this should be fairly obvious, Luka Doncic. I understand he made the playoffs this year, but I think we understand there's the extenuating circumstances of the trade. You have Luka getting injured. I do think, however, people don't quite mention as often, Luka's second half of the season was a little subpar, just in comparison to how Luka normally plays. But, I mean, he's arguably the best playmaker on this list that I have. We all know who number 1 is. Number 1, Steph Curry, by the way. So, let's not even waste our time. Basically, it's him or Steph as the best playmaker on this list. I don't think that there's anyone even remotely close to them. Luka is arguably, like, the best offensive player in the league. It's him, Jokic, Steph. Like, he's in a tier that so few people are in. That obviously, I don't think there's anyone close to him besides Steph Curry. So to me, Luka Doncic easily cinches up this number 2 spot. And I just think next season we're going to see a bit of a revenge tour because everyone's probably going to be sleeping on him and the Mavs now that they had struggled and didn't make the playoffs. And obviously number 1 is Steph Curry, somebody who a lot of people even think might be the best player in basketball. I think this is fairly obvious. Steph is the best shooter we've ever seen. Steph's probably the second best playmaker in the league behind Nikola Jokic. And I just think what Steph has improved as a defensive player, too. I don't think a lot of people talk about it enough. So just seeing what Steph has done and improved on as a basketball player is nothing short of remarkable. He's damn near had a second peak, or even his peak in general, a second prime even. And this is nothing short of just generational. So Steph Curry, to me, is clearly the best point guard in basketball. And I understand Luka's close, but to me, I think Luka would have a little bit more way to go before we really can get him over Steph. You would have to hypervalue a lot for Luka. So now, guys, now that the list is complete, I want to know what you guys think. And let's just really quickly go back over the list again for you guys so you all know. At number 10, we had Tyrese Haliburton. 9 was James Harden. 8 was Jamal Murray. 7 was Jalen Brunson. 6 was De'Aaron Fox. 5 was Trae. 4 was Jamal Murray. 3 was Dame. And then obviously Luka and Steph. So for me, the name, again, the honorable mention I had is Darius Garland. I will say this, though. Kyrie I have as a 2 and not a 1. just because it's a position he's been playing naturally for the last couple seasons. So for me, I think if I had to sort of group these guys, to me it's Steph and Luka. I think those are clearly the best two. And the one thing I guess is like when we're talking about these lists, right? And when I was working on this list, as much as stats mattered, right? James Harden, if we went just off stats compared to some of these dudes, technically might not even be top 10 because he's only giving you 20 and 10, which is incredible. But that Tyrese is giving you similar numbers. Garland was giving you similar numbers, but I still put Harden over both of them because I think what Harden visually you as a viewer can see is giving you something just slightly better than the other two. If I had to make a prediction in terms of who will fall out, it probably will be James Harden. I do think Garland and Haliburton will make a leap to be better. We might see Murray take a leap depending on the playoffs. Fox could take a leap depending on the playoffs. Because the thing is, I think we're all learning as NBA fans, the regular season is very much so misleading. Because Jimmy Butler doesn't really look like anything all that crazy. And then the playoffs come along and he looks like Superman. Jamal Murray isn't an all-star caliber player to a lot of people in the regular season. But he's damn near a top 10 player in the playoffs. Like, we need to start to really work on criterias on all this stuff. So as always, guys, this is Hamster No Soups. Let me know what you guys think. Do you disagree with my top 10? What do you guys think are the top 10 point guards in the league? Again, you could also join the Discord and let me know what you think of my list. As always, guys, this is Hamster No Soups. I hope you enjoyed this kind of content. It's a little bit longer. These videos are going to have to be longer. But this was a lot of fun. So I really can't wait to continue along with this. So as always, guys, this is Hamster No Soups. I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day. Peace out.